Hello, I'm Eric Koski. I've invited my friends Greg Talley and Ryan Smith to join me in ingesting fun and bizarre foods. We'd like you to join us too. So come in and open up. It's Junkmouth. Hi, I'm Eric.
And I'm Greg.
And we're without Ryan this week.
Huzzah!
Yeah, apparently he thought his family was more important than us this week.
Oh, look at me. I'm Ryan. I want to clean my place so I can visit my family who I love. Oh, yeah. God, so selfish.
Yeah, I mean, just at least, doesn't like us. So.
I want to be a good host and provide them with an inviting atmosphere and show the people I love a good time. God, what a dick.
Yeah, we knew that before, and honestly, I don't think this makes it any worse. But I think at this point we should welcome our listeners to the Roof Lizard Lounge, high atop the Dino Hotel in picturesque Lakewood, Colorado, above our restaurant, Paleo Joe's, and just a short drive from Denver, the Red Rocks Amphitheater, and the beautiful Rocky Mountains. So let's get started with our lunch swap. What did you bring in your lunch today, Greg?
Well, in my platinum-plated 3-level Mumbai tiffin, I have taken inspiration from our recent conversations and have a selection of fermented edibles. Now, in the top tier is a fruit and kefir salad. The fruit is densuke watermelon, sekai ichi apples, and Lost Gardens of Heligan pineapple. The densuke is a black-skinned, stripeless watermelon reported to have a special type of sweetness. It is grown exclusively on Japan's northernmost island, Hokkaido, and only 100 densuke are farmed each year. Sekaiichi apples are washed with honey and branded by hand to ensure that they're blemish-free. The orchards where they're grown are pollinated by hand using a tiny wand, treatments not uncommon in Japan's fruit-obsessed culture. As BuzzFeed puts it, these apples were presumably watered with honey, angel pea, and the tears of Donald Trump. The Lost Gardens of Heligan pineapples grow for 2 years under straw, manure, and horse urine. These are Victorian techniques. Incidentally, I use those elsewhere, but I shan't go into that. These techniques allow pineapples to flourish in England's colder climate, and the fruits are then topped with yak milk kefir. Now, in my middle tier, I have a kimchi jjigae, a Korean pork and kimchi stew. My version today is made with mangalitsa pork. The meat of this hairy Hungarian hog is often referred to as the Kobe beef of pork, only it is a pig, not a cow.
Hence the word pork, Greg?
Yes, quite. When you insist on only meat from young piglets, it is even more expensive. The kimchi is flavored with a fish paste made from the critically endangered Australian longnose skate. Ha, take that, you skate. So decadent, so good.
You get that immoral with your food, and yet you make such dumb jokes.
In the bottom tier is a chocolate sauerkraut cake. I have had this baked with Drost brand cocoa powder from Holland and sauerkraut made from endangered Kerguelen cabbage. It is just pretty much going to be my way of eating several species into extinction in one decadent, delicious lunch. Thank you. You're welcome.
I didn't thank you, but I'm going to just leave that one be because, honestly, it's not any worse than your normal lunch. And I'm going to open my Kiss lunchbox and see what I have today. All right, I've got the classic charbroiled cheeseburger in a plastic wrapper.
Peasant food.
A bag of Cheetos and a Sprite. Yeah, there's nothing like a gas station lunch. Let's move on from this. Well, wait, did Ryan leave anything?
Well, no Ryan, but it looks like he left the head of a trout. In your lunchbox, no less. Let's just seal that up for later, shall we? I don't think we will want to be smelling that during this podcast.
No, especially since we have something else in front of us that smells great that can't wait to get to.
I'm going to put aside my decadent slop because what you've brought today smells so heavenly, I can't wait to try it.
I'm quite excited because this week we have a beer episode.
Why, you practically leak beer, especially after drinking it.
Yes, quite.
Does this mean we get to drink on the job today?
Well, I'm sorry, Greg, but it means we're going to have beer flavored and related items. I didn't bring anything for us with any substantial amount of alcohol in it.
But I need my sweet, sweet booze. Greggy need his booze. Give me my booze.
You know, Greg, you do own Paleo Joe's downstairs.
But it's Sunday and they're closed.
Oh, well, I guess I am a home brewer. You can come to my house afterwards. We can have some booze. But we're going to have to wait till after the podcast. So the other thing we need to do before we can eat some of this great stuff today, though.
Yes, housekeeping. Business.
Yes,
get to business.
We need to pay homage to the man.
That's right. Let's play that sweet, sweet Kevin Murphy jingle from Riff Tracks.
Roll the tape.
Roll the tape.
The next time you travel to Denver, make your journey into one that you'll remember. Don't just sit around and wish when you can have an expedition at the Dino Hotel. Stretch, snarl, growl.
All right. I love that jingle every time. But now we need to do our last thing before we can eat, and that's lay out our ground rules. For number one is we look for items not widely distributed in the USA. Two is we look for unique items, nothing that's just a simple regional brand of something you can find all over this country. Three, we fit all our foods each week to a theme, such as our beer theme this week. And item four is every week we each get one pass card if there's something that we just refuse to try because we find it so disgusting.
Ooh, raising my hand. Question, teacher.
Why are you raising your hand, Greg? You usually just interrupt.
Question. Okay, my question is, since Ryan's not here, can I have his extra pass card?
No.
There's no distributive property of the pass cards.
And honestly, Greg, it's the beer episode. I mean, it's just a formality to say we have it this week. This is good stuff.
All right. Oh, that's right. Ryan's not here. And what's our rule when
we
Ryan's
either have
not
great
here?
food or swamp cabbage.
Yeah. Well, actually, you did the swamp cabbage to me when Ryan wasn't here.
I did. Yeah.
So I guess it's not 100% accurate that we always eat amazingly well.
We either have amazing food or swamp cabbage.
Were you tasting that swamp cabbage for days afterwards? Because I would occasionally and.
I did not.
Yeah, I'd have a swamp cabbage burp. It was not pretty.
Wow.
Not a pretty thing at all.
Yeah. You know, I really don't want to talk about swamp cabbage when we have something it just smells decadent and delicious right in front of us. It's staring at us right now.
It smells like sweet, sweet carbs in this room.
And that is from the CB in Pots. We have their pretzel sticks and beer cheese fondue.
Whoa.
These are Bavarian pretzel sticks.
Give me.
Beer cheese made with butt-face amber ale cheese fondue. Also comes with stone ground mustard. So,
oh my God!
Let's look at this.
Yeah.
We got it. One of those typical restaurant to-go containers.
Okay.
And, here's a nice, beautiful orange.
Good. Man, we are so going to trash our computers doing this.
Yeah.
Okay, so stone ground mustard. What's the green? Okay, you've got a couple of little.
Yeah, there's a couple little extra containers with it.
That is totally stone ground. That is just nothing but solid seeds.
And then this looks like just some either some chives or green onion. Probably green onion.
I guess that's to stir into the cheese.
Do you want it in the cheese?
No, unnecessary. I'm going to grab one of these pretzels.
Yeah, these beautiful soft pretzels. Nice soft. Nice brown crustiness on the outside.
I'm going to use one of these pretzels to kind of stir up the cheese so that we don't have any cheese foreskin. There we go. All right, let's try this.
You called it cheese foreskin? Not just skin, but foreskin?
I don't know what you're talking about. You're hearing things.
No, I specifically heard that. All right. You already took a bite. I'm taking it.
Interesting. It's cheddar. But it's almost. I'm going to break off a piece so I'm not double dipping, being a rude bastard.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's closer to nacho cheese than cheddar, I would say.
Well, and I think that's when you make a fondue sauce, it kind of comes out like this. This is what, trying to imitate this kind of a texture and flavor was how we got the current nacho cheese. It's just that this was the original. It's made with good cheese, along with your beer, some spices.
Oh, I'm not
some
knocking
fats.
it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, this is what nacho cheese wishes it was, or more accurately, nacho cheese is a very poor imitation of this.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, I'm going to try some of the stone ground mustard on a piece here.
So, but the beer, I mean, other than pretzels go good with beer, the beer is actually in the cheese dip, not in the mustard, right?
Yes. That's a really nice stone ground mustard. I don't know that I would take it over the cheese dip though. Cheese was really good.
The beer, no beer flavor really.
Well,
in this, no real heat either.
I think like the hops and the yeastiness don't come through, but I think you taste some of the malty flavors from the beer.
Okay, I can see malt. I can see malt.
Yeah, I definitely got that. I need to get another pretzel stick so I can have some more of that cheese without double dipping here.
Now, CB and Potts, are people going to be able to find this outside of Colorado? Where?
No, they won't. I got a mouthful of
Let me ask you questions
pretzel.
while you. I'll read your notes because
okay. Read my notes.
Hold on. How did we pick up a fly? We've never had a fly in the podcast studio. You bring in good food, and you brought a fly in your wake.
Apparently.
It wasn't in here for the first recording when we were recording Revival League, and somehow we have picked up an intruder. Maybe it's Ryan in his spirit animal form.
Ryan's spirit animal is a fly.
Is a dung fly. But anyway, so it says here, CB and Potts opened up their first deluxe tavern in Fort Collins in 1974. They now have 7 locations. Are they all in Colorado?
Yes, they are.
Which each have a tap room and family-friendly restaurant. And, it's good stuff. It's definitely good stuff. I have been known to go to some CB and Potts before and enjoyed their food when I've been there.
Yeah, and good beer. I won't say it's my absolute favorite brewery because we have so much competition and some absolutely great ones in Colorado, but it is a good brewery.
Ah, man, the fly is attempting to land on the pretzels. He didn't make it. He landed on the paper next to the pretzels, but he's clearly eyeing it.
Definitely.
This is why we can't have nice things. I mean,
because we have one fly.
One fly. Yeah, but look at the size of him. He's like horse-sized.
No, because a horse would be taller than us.
Well, okay, if a horse were fly-sized, that would be a horse-sized fly. So
anything was fly-sized, it would be
horse-sized.
Yeah,
It's a horse fly.
Logic, Greg.
It's a horse fly. Run with it.
Okay.
Okay, but in terms of this pretzel and beer cheese combo.
Yeah.
Pretzels are amazing. They're what a good soft pretzel should be. Little salty, definitely slightly buttery. Nice chewiness to it, not too hard. And beer cheese, I don't think it's anything to write home about. I mean, it's okay.
It's good.
It's good.
It's good. It's not phenomenal. It's not something I'm going to say this is like the best beer cheese ever. Everybody needs to come try it.
I would probably split this as an appetizer with about 3-4 people. I mean, I would eat a couple of these soft pretzel rolls, dipped in the cheese, and be happy. I mean, I don't know about making this as a meal, but it's a good snack.
Yeah, this would be good for the table, and it's not. It's one of those, if you're there, this is a good, tasty thing to order, but it's not the reason to go to CB and Potts.
This is also, I mean, it's not just beer cheese. It would be a great pairing accompaniment to a nice beer.
Yes, it would.
What would you drink this with? You're the beer aficionado.
Something like this. The first thing I'd pair it with is the amber ale that they actually make the beer cheese with.
Okay.
Let those flavors complement each other. If I did something else, I'd maybe like a pale ale and let a little bit of the hoppiness that you lose from the beer chease.
Sort of an
when it makes it
IPA or something,
Yeah. I would tend to go more toward a pale ale because something this heavy, a pale ale is basically a lighter version of what an IPA is.
Okay.
More accurately, an IPA is a bigger version of a pale ale.
Okay.
They existed first. And that's what I think would pair really nicely with this.
So what would the Bavarians drink with like a pretzel?
Oh, and they're
Sort of a
it'd be a
Heffeweisen,
German. You could do a Heffeweisen with it. Honestly, I don't think this was the best pairing for a Heffeweisen. I think I'd go more for a German lager.
If you eliminated the cheese and
Nice
were just
dunkel.
eating the pretzel, what would you drink with it?
Well, then you can have just about
Any beer. Any beer.
Yeah, a straight up Bavarian pretzel goes with like
Everything.
everything. Yeah, that's why you see a lot of breweries and tap houses and things like that. They will sell pretzels.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's one where like they only can sell prepackaged food, you got your Rolls Gold pretzel bags that are there.
Yeah, but it's not the same thing as a good.
It's not as good.
pretzel.
Not like these. No,
No, nothing like these.
Amazing.
Yeah, these are delicious.
So speaking of this, how do we want to rank this?
1 out of 5 greasy wrappers.
Yeah.
1 being weak.
Well, 0 to
being,
5, with 0 being
the weakest.
inedible.
5 being transcendent. It does what it says it's going to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm not blown away by it. So I'm going to go with somewhere 4-ish, 4 greasy wrappers, which means it is a good, solid food, but it's not. It doesn't blow me out of the water.
And I'm right with you on that. Now, paired with the right beer, the combo might rise up to being something transcendent, but by itself, I agree. 4 greasy wrappers from me.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I honestly, if the cheese were hotter, if I were hungrier, I don't think my estimation would change all that much.
No, it's
I mean, this came 30 minutes after you ordered it, and we sat down immediately in the studio and ate this. But I don't think hotter or hungrier would have hugely changed my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So.
But
right.
no, I'm glad you brought it in. This was delicious and certainly worth having. And I'm glad I got to try it. And depending on these will be good palate cleansers, depending on what other stuff you bring in.
Okay. Well, we'll see if we need it. But before we get to our next item, I think it's time to accentuate the positive.
All right.
Yeah. So, and in this week, accentuate the positive is where I highlight one of the many joys in life that just make it great to be alive. Because I'm a positive person, and this week I don't even have Ryan here to, bash me down for it. And this week I'm talking about the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, commonly known as NASA.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great call. You know what? Out of the various government agencies out there, 2 favorite, National Park Service and NASA.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've covered the National Park Service, and here we're on to NASA.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, in full disclosure, I grew up in Houston, not too far from the Johnson Space Center, and my mom, my mom wrote for an aeronautics magazine. So I got to go down to NASA both on school field trips and for some of her stories. Got to meet Sally Ride as a kid.
Oh, wow.
And absolutely, hero worshipped her, because it was such a cool story, a real American hero. And but I remember old school Johnson Space Center. If you go there now, it's kind of like a big touristy trap thing that's sort of like Pizza Planet from Toy Story 1. Okay. Where I think there may be even a ball pit, for kids to jump in. The old school NASA was like something out of Men in Black. Very buttoned down buildings, all science, slide rules, pocket protectors, guys in horn rim glasses. Back in the 80s when it wasn't cool, steely-eyed missile men who had been there in the 60s and 70s for the heyday of NASA and its golden era. So, I've seen the tarted up version of Johnson Space Center, but Houston is a town built on oil and space, and I went to church with a bunch of NASA engineers. So I quite literally, my Sunday school teacher was a rocket scientist.
That actually sounds really fun. And I think, we might date ourselves, but I think we kind of grew up in in an age where we really got to see maybe not the moon landing program so much, but a lot of the big space shuttle program, and where NASA was really into its biggest promotion. Because I think up to the moon landing, I think they were more focused on the science, and then they got a little bit of the PR bug post moon landing, which really kind of hit into the era we grew up in.
Yeah, and we were born by the time Eric and I were born. All the moon missions, the Apollo missions, were over.
Yes.
So those were no longer going on, but Space Shuttle was in its heyday. And if you're a Gen Xer, until 9/11 happened, the two formative events in your growing up would have probably been Star Wars and the Space Shuttle Challenger blowing up.
Yeah. I mean, those are the major.
The generation before us, baby boomers, their formative moment was probably Kennedy being assassinated. For us, it was the Challenger blowing up. And you talk to any Gen Xer and ask them, where were you? They have a story to tell.
I'm sure both of us do. But right now, I think let's talk a little bit about NASA.
Sorry. No, let's talk about NASA proper. It's just, it's. I'm sorry to just be so nostalgic about it.
No, this is great, Greg. I love what the personal pieces you bring to it, because even anything, an organization, no matter how good it is, it always comes down to the people that are part of it, that make it those great things. And the first person that started making NASA great was the person who established it, who was then President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who established NASA in 1958. So this is not an old organization.
No.
By any means. We're coming in the 50s, that post-World War II era, country rebuilding.
Height of the Cold War, country got a massive set of scares, starting with from the Soviet Union, starting with Sputnik. And our answer to Sputnik and especially Kennedy's call for putting a man on the moon in 10 years, Sputnik, the Russians kind of kicked our butts in the early days and forced us to be better and faster and stronger.
And I don't think a lot of people realize how close that race had been. In hindsight today, it seems like the U.S. had this big program. The Russians kind of had a couple things in the beginning, and then the U.S. went to the moon. And that's really, it was a much tighter race than that. And
I've actually, one of the things you see when you go to the Johnson Space Center is the podium that JFK stood at when he gave his man to the moon, speech.
Yeah.
So it's like highlighted. It's there. It's like such a piece of history. Such a piece of Americana, that's fortunately one thing that they didn't get rid of in the commercialization, of turning it into a tourist trap. So,
I was going to say the only personal story I actually have from NASA related was I actually got to see John Glenn give a speech when they put it was a piece of one of the shuttles, and now I can't remember. I think it was whatever the first shuttle that was built. They put it as into one of the museums out in California. Out at the now I can't even remember the name of the museum, but it was one of the ones right out by Edwards Air Force Base.
Sure,
it sits right outside of there. There's a big museum, and they dedicated that. He was there, gave a speech, and it was related to an air show that was going on at the time. They put those together, and I grew up Air Force, so I had a lot of chance to see a lot of the air shows and things, but that was the only time I got to actually hear, one of the famous astronauts from the NASA program give a speech. That was quite exciting.
No, I mean, it's funny. My memory of going to Johnson Space Center as a kid, they had not only did they show you the moon rocks, and they would try to show you how delicate their sensors were by dropping grains of sand on a one sensor, and show you like how it would count every grain of sand, instantaneously, and that was fascinating. But the other thing in the standard Houston area field trip when you went to Johnson Space Center, as I remember, is they had the coolest sort of Men in Black style space age cafeteria I've ever been in. You'd eat lunch there, and this is hilarious now, but back then it was cutting edge where they would have a conveyor belt tray retrieval system when you were done with your lunch. So you'd put your lime jello and your empty milk cartons on, put the whole tray on the conveyor belt and watch it disappear into a little window. And that was it just seemed so Jetson-y at the time. They're everywhere now.
Yes, they are.
Like moving walkways in Tomorrowland. It was very futuristic.
Well, now let's, with the NASA talk, let's move to a spot that, to me, I'm an engineer, and to me, one of the great things NASA has done is progress our research and our science.
Yes.
Which has been absolutely amazing. It really started as something that was needed to get to the moon.
Yes.
That's where they really started. And, there were a lot of, especially material things that came out of the space program that are just pervasive now today everywhere, particularly a lot of the ceramic technology and a lot of the polymer technology that we have today really came out of that early space program. The reason we, in my industry, when we start pumping around things that are really flammable, the reason they don't leak out and cause fires all the time is because we have much better polymers to make seals that will hold up under really severe conditions. So that's a great thing thanks to NASA. A lot of the early things they did were in the computer system area. So computers and controls, when you look pre-NASA, computers were what they called mechanical type computers, or some of the early vacuum tube type things were just being developed pre-NASA. And anything that we would call a microelectronic, the early research on that came out of NASA, where now we're sitting here recording a podcast with two computers that are way more powerful than anything NASA could have done in a huge room. Oh, yeah.
Our smartphones are more powerful than the computing power they had.
And those took up rooms and rooms and rooms.
Yeah.
But they actually wanted some basic control things put into the rockets and then later the space shuttles. And the big room-sized computers could not do that. So a lot of the, at the time it was very simple microelectronics they were developing.
Well, but now Moore's law about the constant halving and shrinking.
Oh yeah, it's gone crazy since.
And the increase of computing power. I mean,
But that kick that got it all started came out of NASA. And I don't know that I think we would eventually got there, but it would have been a much longer time frame had NASA not given it that big kickstart. So
I mean. One of the things about NASA that isn't necessarily a quantifiable thing is it is America at its best. It's science and engineering at its best. It is brain power and smarts at its best. It is taking this massive national impulse and funneling it into science and into learning and into math and creating something that had never existed before and shooting for goals that humanity had never achieved. And I mean, we don't have a national project like this today, and we're probably the poorer for it because, I mean, the same generation, not only did they fight World War II and win that, they then, grew up, put on their civvies, and put a damn man on the moon. I mean, that's something.
Unless you believe the conspiracy theorists.
No.
We put a man on the moon.
We put a man on the moon,
yeah.
Period. Watch the Mythbusters episode. They'll set you straight.
Yeah, that was a great episode.
But I mean, this cannot be celebrated enough. I mean, 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, assuming humanity hasn't imploded, when we look back on the Greatest Generation, the things that they accomplished in their lifetimes is monumental, and coming together for a greater good, and having that greater good be focused around science.
Well, and I honestly do think there's a place, and NASA's doing some research on it, that that we should take as a national project. And, it may take a while before we authentically do take it on as a real thing. But honestly, I think we can, as a project and as a nation, break our dependence on fossil fuel.
I think...
And there's a lot of things, especially around climate technology and solar, helioscience, the study of the sun, where NASA can be a massive contributor to that. And
If
the
they're
research
allowed
doing
to.
right now, if allowed to. Yeah.
If allowed to. I mean, but the thing about science and engineering is they won't sit still. And we can try to deny this information and learning, but all we will do is by trying to say, it doesn't exist or we're not going to fund it.
You slow it down.
It's just abdicate our role as leaders and turn it over
Somebody
to
else
rivals.
will do it. Yeah.
Somebody else will do it, and we'll be an also-ran, which I think is a disservice to Eisenhower and to Kennedy and the generation that created this fine institution.
Absolutely. And what I'm starting to think right now, though, is if I'm going to be able to keep talking well, I need something to drink.
Are you thirsty?
I'm quite thirsty.
All right, and this is the beer episode, so
Yeah.
this ought to be interesting.
Well,
And by the way, thank you, NASA.
thank you very much, NASA. But now we're, instead of going to Houston, we're going to go to Puerto Rico for our drink.
And is this a problem?
Not a problem at all.
What? So this is not beer.
This is not beer, but it is a beer-related beverage. This is something called malta, and we have the Malta India version today. And so what malta is, it's a fermented malt beverage. So malt is what beer is made out of. It's the grains it's made out of. And this.
So when they say Malta, they don't mean the island of Malta.
No.
Because this, and I'm assuming it's an India pale ale style.
No. Not at all. Malta is usually quite dark.
Well, why is it India?
Though it wouldn't need to be. The India, it's because it's the West Indies. It's
okay. So West Indies. Okay.
Yeah. It's got that influence into it's made in Puerto Rico, so you got
so it's made in Puerto Rico and it has the names of two other parts of the world that are utterly unrelated unless you know the history, in which case it's not.
Right.
So is this a twist cap or is this
These are not twist caps. So I don't know if you have your you did have your bottle opener, so I'll give you that one. And I'll pop mine over here.
I lost my bottle opener in Wyoming. This is one I stole from Paleo Joe's. So
yeah, these
remind me to run this
These
back
are
downstairs.
great, cute little 7-ounce bottles.
They're
Malta
adorable.
India.
It's kind of like size of a Coke Zero or something like that.
Yeah,
but in a brown bottle. That was a twist cap.
And
We could have
this
twisted
does
that
have
off.
hops. So this is like essentially this is like everything like a beer, except it was not fermented. So a lot of the sugars that would later become alcohol are still sugars in
So
here.
this is gonna be really sweet.
So this should be really, really sweet. I've never had one, so
is
we'll find
is
out.
this considered a kid drink or a grown up drink?
It can be either the German versions where they really started were a kid's drink, but
Like shandies, things like that.
Well, a shandy would be an older kid drink. This would be more like a little kid drink in the German version.
Yeah.
But the ones that they make in the Indies and Central America tend to be for everybody.
Yeah.
So they often will be a little more spicy, a little more hot.
They're
instead of just
Radlers.
being
They're
sweet.
Radlers, the beer sodas in Germany, because Fahrrad is to ride your bike, and they were meant to be for bike riders, like on a hot summer day.
Yeah, I don't think a bike rider would want this stuff. I think probably.
So Radler or
heavy.
Radler or Shandy, it's sort of in that family.
Yeah. Other than those are beers mixed with things like a lemonade or a fruit juice to lighten them down in the alcohol and be more hydrating. But,
All right. Well, cheers.
All right,
Let's see how
cheers.
this goes. Down the hatch.
Yep.
Huh.
That's different.
I get the malt, and that's not unpleasant, but it's sweet.
It's really, really sweet.
But I kind of like it. That's
A
not,
definite molasses flavor to it.
and that's why I like it. It's kind of malty, molassesy. It's not like anything I've had before. It's like some of my favorite root beers, but without the licorice and anise flavor. That's stripped away.
That's stripped away, and in place of it, you got a very mild hop flavor in here.
Yeah, you got a mild
Just
hop.
just barely enough
Hops
to
and
know that's what it is.
molasses.
Yeah.
It's kind of like drinking malto meal. Like if you've ever had malto meal and stirred in some maple syrup or something, or
It's like malto meal. Yeah, but with molasses rather than maple syrup. I do kind of get that. There's kind of that like malto meal, molasses, hops, lightly carbonated.
yeah, I am actually pleasantly surprised, and I like this because this flavor profile is unlike any I have had before. I mean, but in a pleasing way. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It is well outside of our cultural norms for what we drink with soda pop, and we have a lot of foreign soda pops between the Revival League podcast and Junkmouth, and this one is it's pleasant, but it's
so different.
It's very foreign. It's very different from what we normally have.
I think it's one. Right now, it's like good but not great to me. But I have a feeling it's one of those things. Like if I had it more and more, my taste for it would grow, and I would like it more and more. Yeah,
I agree, and I kind of wonder if this would defeat the purpose. But if you could mix this and use it as a mixer for something, it's dark. It's like Dr. Pepper, but without that prune flavor. It's
I can see that.
Like it's like. It's like a strong root beer, but without the anise. I mean, I'm just having a hard time describing it.
It is kind of difficult to describe. What I will say, you talked about mixing it. What is often done with this is to do floats.
I could see this being excellent in a float.
I absolutely.
What kind of ice
too,
cream is recommended?
Well, usually just vanilla that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But, you'd have to go to the Caribbean and ask people what they really drink. So
I've never been.
How they really do.
I've never been, and if I went to Puerto Rico and lay on the beach and this became a thing, it would be like a nostalgia thing. Just like when I go to Hawaii, I want a Lily Koi lemonade. Maybe if we went to Puerto Rico, I'd want a Malta India.
Yeah, very well could.
Local flavor. But
I'm instantly a fan of this.
I am too, because it's weird good.
Yeah,
that
I gotta
damn
see
fly.
That damn fly. I gotta see how well this pairs with the beer cheese.
Okay, that's okay. That's not a bad idea. So getting some cheddar and getting some soft pretzel, and does it work or not? Yes or no?
Yeah, so.
So. Not so much.
Yeah, definitely would. It's too sweet to make a great pairing with that.
This is more like a dessert.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you could honestly have done this as the Be Merry and not the drink part of the podcast, and it would have been fine as a dessert.
Yeah, I would have one of these as a liquid version of a dessert anytime.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Well, now that we've had some, wait, before we move on, what do we want to rank this?
Greasy wrappers. I'm going to go with the 4 again.
I'm going to even go a little higher. I'm going to call this one a 4.5.
4.5. I'm just saying 4 range. I mean, 4-ish. 4 greasy wrappers because it's delicious, but it doesn't blow me out of the water. I mean, I would drink this again, but I probably wouldn't seek it out.
Part of why I'm going to call this a 4.5 is I think that I instantly like it, but I think my tastes limit my immediate like for it, and I can tell if I keep drinking it, I'm going to like it more and more.
Yeah.
And so from just a culture, it's that unique to me, but I like it that much, even though it's that, I guess maybe not despite, but, when something is that foreign, you tend to kind of lean kind of toward the middle in terms of how you think of it.
It's interesting because when I read the ingredients, it says not only does it say non-alcoholic malt beverage, it says it has barley malt, refined corn grits or rice, depending on the batch, and hops. So, I mean, it's got – so there you go. You got, all your beer ingredients in one place. You've got corn, malt, and hops. in a soda.
And the corner rice is what we would call an adjunct in the beer because it won't by itself convert from the starch to the sugar.
No.
It needs the malt to do that. But
Yeah.
it's converted to sugar here, and you can really taste it.
Yeah, but by the way, Eric was so eager to skip over and try this Malta India. He forgot to say, if you are listening and you're disappointed that I didn't get drunk this week, we have a section that's our regurgitation segment, and it's how to contact us. So you can reach out to us at junkmouthpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/junkmouth. We're on Twitter at junkmouthpod, or you can leave us an iTunes review. We'd love to hear from you.
We'd really love some iTunes reviews. We haven't been getting those, and those would really help us out.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Greg. And since you did that, would you also mind going right to Tales of the Stupid?
Yeah, my Tales of the Stupid revolves around a different kind of beer, and you heard me mention it earlier, and that's root beer. Now, it's interesting because root beer was it can be alcoholic or non-alcoholic, but it's normally a kid drink or a non-alcoholic alternative. The alcohol versions have really started coming back in popularity, but it was invented in I think the it's been sold since the 1840s, so it's been around for a long time. But it was really a pharmacist in the 1870s, Charles Elmer Hyers, who was the one to successfully market a brand of root beer, and I think you can still get Hyers root beer.
Probably.
But if you've ever seen birch beer versus root beer versus a sarsaparilla, let me break it down for you. Okay, root beer traditionally used to be made out of the sassafras plant. And sassafras and root beer are synonymous. It's the same thing. And that is the root of the sassafras tree. Although it's actually now considered by the FDA a carcinogen.
Yeah. Well, have you ever had the sassafras tea?
So old school sassafras, if it doesn't have the saffrole removed from it, it would actually eventually give you cancer, like all delicious things do. Now, sarsaparilla is not made from a root; it's made from a vine, and so sarsaparilla has kind of a chewing gum flavor, like Bazooka Joe's. That's different from root beer. Maybe somewhere on the pink bubblegum nutmeg profile, and then birch beer. Birch beer is made from birch tree, so it's oil from birch bark, and that has kind of a wintergreen flavor to it. So root beer really took off during Prohibition, when you had a whole ton of breweries that were caught with suddenly no product, but all of the assembly line. So it was a natural step for the ones that survived the passage of Prohibition to start making soda pop, and root beer skyrocketed in popularity. And that's also right around then is when root beer stands became common, like A&W root beer stands and IBC. So this is a long and storied drink. Now, I've tried over 100 sodas at this point and counting.
Easy. Yeah.
And I would have to say in my top 10, my favorite soda in the whole world is a root beer. And you've probably heard me talk about it ad nauseum.
I've tried it, it's definitely up there for me too. It's a great root beer.
Yeah, and it's
just of course Tommy Knockers.
Tommy Knockers out of Idaho Springs, so which is also a microbrewery. Tommy Knockers. You and I probably would get along famously if we ever went up to the microbrewery, because You drink the beer and I drink the root beer, and everyone would be happy.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not a huge drinker, so once I'd had a few beers, I'd probably switch over and join you with the root beer.
Yeah. Now, the best birch beer, if you want a good one, go look for Boylan's. There's no better one than Boylan's out of New York. If you want a good sassafras, I would go with either Sioux City or there's one I tried a few weeks ago that is Earps, like Wyatt Earp.
Okay. I have not heard of that one.
Yeah, and I think that's Orca Beverage Company, if I'm remembering correctly. So, go out, do a taste test, go get yourself one of each. Get yourself a Tommy Knockers, an Earps, and a Boylan's, and try them side by side. Because once you've tried a root beer, and once you've tried a birch beer, and once you've tried a real sarsaparilla, you will know exactly how each of them line up and are different.
Yeah, and I'll honestly say I think my favorite of those is actually the birch beer. And that
I love birch beer.
That Boylan's birch beer is I would probably take that over the Tommy Knockers, though it's really, really close.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I would still go with the Tommy Knockers, but it would also depend on if you made me choose by category. Those would probably be my top picks for each of those categories or even subcategories of the root beer family. So that's my Tales from the Stupid. Go have a nice frosty root beer. Make a nice frosty root beer float.
And I do want to point out, if you want to try it, Hires root beer is still for sale.
You know what? We've never done Hires on the podcast.
I think that's probably because it's corn syrup is my assumption.
I bet you they have a cane sugar one somewhere, because all of the places like Cheerwine that are normally made with corn syrup, they're starting to do like a legacy one that's made with cane sugar. So,
okay, well, the Hires does not right now. I just found it. It is a corn syrup, and
I'll dig deeper.
They're at least now. At least when the question was answered on here, a year ago, they had not had a cane sugar version. So.
Yeah. Well, if it doesn't exist, get out there and get to it, Hires.
Yeah. All right.
So that's my Tales of the Stupid.
Thank you for
beer.
Thank you for telling us that stupid tale, Greg.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we get to move on to Be Merry. And I've got a can right here for us to be merry.
All right. So
looks like a can of beer.
It does look like a can of beer, but I thought you said we weren't having beer. This is dessert.
Because it's not a can of beer. It's because it's a can of Jelly Belly draft beer flavored jelly beans.
Okay.
Yeah.
After the Bernie Bott's Every Flavor Beans on our Wizard episode of the podcast, this can't be any worse.
Oh, no.
Bring it on. I mean, it might not be my thing.
They're interesting to open. Oh, and they're...
Oh, so that was a novelty can.
It's a novelty can, yeah.
But inside the fake beer can...
They actually have cute little packets.
Are they all the same flavor?
Yeah, they're all just...
There's not like different flavors of beer, like a lager.
No, they're all the same.
So it's triangular packages inside of the beer can. That darn fly.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm going to try to get... he flew away. I will get that fly before the end of the podcast. Okay, so let's see here.
All right,
these packages were obviously wrapped at sea level or much lower elevation because they are puffed out beyond belief. So let's see if we... Okay, I got mine open.
Yep, I've got mine open.
With a little whoosh. I try to smell it, but all I smell is Malta India.
No, I can smell it, and it
does smell.
It smells like
beery.
stale beer.
It does smell like stale, but not skunky beer, just stale.
No,
beer.
just stale.
Okay, so these are what are they supposed to taste like?
So they're, according to the research I did, they're actually supposed to taste like a German Heffeweisen. So there should be some banana and/or clove hints to it.
Oh, it doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah, along with just the general beer flavor. A malty light beer flavor.
Yeah, it smells very malty. Sort of has that beer earthy perfume about it, which is malt, and hops. So let's try one.
Yeah.
It's harder than a regular jelly bean.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just
is it stale?
Old or
no? Mine came with a crunch.
Yeah, I did. I kind of
not a,
but still soft in the middle. It's just a little.
This doesn't taste like beer at all.
No,
It's like pina colada.
I don't get any pineapple. I definitely get the banana.
I get a little banana. It tastes fruity and tropical. Doesn't taste anything like beer.
Not at all, which kind of disappoints that I don't have any beer flavor.
I will say I've had one, and I'm not going to have more because the texture is gritty.
Yeah.
And it is sticking to my teeth and gumming together in a really gritty, weird, unpleasant way. It's not like, I mean, I was expecting to bite into a soft jelly bean, and I'm not really much on gummy candy or jelly beans, but this is kind of Brillo pad texture.
I didn't find it that bad. It was just I don't get any grittiness on mine.
It's like
It's not overly sticky, but it's like thick, dense.
it's not. It's got to be stale.
I that's all I can think.
It's okay. Let's see. There are some package dates on here. This says eat by 04/21 of 17, so it went expired in April. So
Yeah.
that's a couple months ago. But still, it shouldn't be this hard. And I mean, this is really
Especially
over
the way
hill.
they're packaged.
Yeah. I mean, it's double packaged, and these are mean little BBs of artificial banana. I get it. I'm sorry. I mean, I do like other lines of Jelly Belly's products, but this doesn't do what's advertised. It's gritty and unpleasant, and it sticks to your teeth. It has nothing like what a root beer jelly bean is, or not a root beer, a beer jelly bean or a regular jelly bean is supposed to do. I got to give it a 1 greasy wrapper.
Ooh, I don't know if I can be quite that harsh. Maybe yours was just grittier than mine or something like that.
It wasn't pleasant.
But I agree. It definitely needs something that shows it's a little bit negative. But I think it's just a little negative. I actually thought the banana was halfway decent flavor. The texture was off. Definitely didn't do what it said.
Okay, if it was a banana flavored jelly bean, I'd be with you. But it says beer. It sells itself as draft.
Well, that's where it's not doing what it says. It doesn't match its advertising.
No, if this were a banana jelly bean, I'd probably bump it up to a 2 or a 3. But it's not doing what it says it's supposed to do. It's definitely unpleasant to chew.
Well, and maybe it's just I'm rating it for what it is, not for what it advertises. And based off of that, I would give it a 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So you give it a 1, I give it a 2. Neither one of those are a positive rating. I kind of think, 0 to 5, so a neutral is a 2.5, right?
Yeah.
So this is just a little bit negative.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I cannot praise this. It is unworthy of praise because it doesn't. It's not truth in advertising. It's just gritty, gross, and underwhelming.
Yeah. And not recommended.
And honestly, the Malta India was a better dessert than the purported beer candy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Malta India all the way.
Yeah. So I think just going back over your food choices here for your beer episode, Eric, you had a solid eat in the beer pretzels from CB and Potts, and with the beer cheese. It was good, not amazing. You had
Agreed.
You had under your drink section, you had this Puerto Rican Malta India, which is unlike anything I've had before.
Something we really go for on this podcast.
Yeah, no, and we've tried some weird stuff before, and this was amongst the weirder drinks. It seems like if we're going to have something weird, it's going to be in the drink section, like amongst the weirdest stuff we've tried.
Says the man who was with me when we had swamp cabbage.
Yeah, that's true. The swamp cabbage was also mildly poisonous. Thank you, Eric. And but still, a solid entry. And then we ended the podcast on a very disappointing note with these Heffeweisen Jelly Belly beans, which I have no idea what they're doing.
Me either. That was definitely the low point. I think the Malta India was probably the high point, but the pretzels were really close. And with that, I think we move on to final thoughts.
I would try 2 of these 3 things again.
Definitely.
Third one, not so much. But maybe I can feed the jelly beans to that fly and take care of 2 things at once.
Yeah, I think this matches what a lot, just as a general beer thing. When you have good traditional beers or good traditional beer-related foods, they tend to be really good.
Yeah.
When you start experimenting and doing weird things, it's really hit and miss. Sometimes you hit on something and it's great. But sometimes you end up with beer-flavored Jelly Bellies.
Yeah, sometimes
and you're sad.
sometimes it's good weird, sometimes it's just weird.
Yeah.
So
that's my final thought. So hopefully you can go and get something like some good beer cheese or good Malta soda. And until next time, eat, drink, and be merry.
peace out.